Welcome, everyone from wherever you're watching to the Okra's Downtown Affiliate Network orientation webinar. So this webinar is really just to kind of give you an overview and to integrate you into our network, make sure you're fully aware of the different requirements, the resources, and the opportunities that you have as an Okra's Downtown Affiliate Network organization. And agenda's pretty simple. I'll have Abby Huff talk through some of the requirements. Some of these you already know about, but just things to be putting on your calendar ahead of time, making sure your board is aware of throughout the year. And then I'll talk through some of the different resources we have, as well as just some opportunities that you can have as you're looking over the next year and kind of getting your organization continually off the ground and getting settled in your new role as an ODAN. So this is our strategic initiatives team. So I'll first introduce myself. My name's Abby Chapman. I'm the Indiana Main Street Outreach and Organization Manager. So really under my role, I handle a lot of our education. So kind of what we're doing today, kind of educating you, but also any kind of technical assistance with our local programs. Also community exchanges, some of the conferences that we go to, a lot of that falls under me. So really anything, again, with that outreach or kind of building the capacity at the local level falls under my role. And then I'll pass it over to Abby to introduce herself.
Hello, good morning, everybody, or afternoon if you're watching this later. So my role as the Indiana Main Street Senior Program Manager is really the accreditation. So once you become a Indiana Main Street program, you're not just in it for life. So I kind of work through that accreditation process with you, reporting and other things. I also oversee the CDBG grants that are specifically for our Main Street. So our Preserving Main Street program, our Main Street Revitalization program, anything that is kind of related, I work like that. I work with the CDBG team. And then I also go through applications. So you guys kind of worked with me as well as your CL when you were applying. But then if you want to level up to either our Indiana accredited Main Street level or our nationally accredited Main Street, you'll work with me to meet those standards as well.
And then the other two people you see here on our team, Andrea Kern is our Director of Strategic Initiatives. She also is our Indiana Main Street Coordinator. So she really handles, again, the overseeing all of the different things happening in the Strategic Initiatives team, which is things like Preserving Main Street. You might have heard of the HELP program, Stellar, all of those programs kind of fall under, which then leads me to Alex Taylor. He's our Community and Economic Development Program Manager. So he works with a lot of those other programs that I just mentioned, but he also does have a specialty in that economic vitality. So anytime we want him to kind of come in and do some education for our Main Street organizations on that area, he does that as well. So that's a little bit about our team. And then I will pass it over back to Abby to talk through requirements.
So as I said, you guys are now in the network, yay. But in being in that network, there are a couple things that we do ask from you annually. So that first one is agreements. So you were given a logo agreement, and once you guys sign that and give it back to me, this allows you to use both our Okra logo as well as our Indiana Main Street logo. And there is a logo specifically for you guys for our ODAN level. So it just allows you to use those. And then every 3 years, you will sign a program agreement. So you'll notice the one that was sent to you covers 2023 and 2024 because that logo came out last year, or that agreement came out last year. But it really is a joint agreement between you guys as a local program and us as the coordinating program. So when you're reading through it, you will see kind of some things that we would love you guys to do as organizations, continue to maintain that nonprofit status, make sure you have an operating board, you're attending trainings. But then on our end, we're going to maintain a coordinating program with Main Street America. We're going to provide those education opportunities for you. We're going to have a staff person available to answer questions for you. So it really is a two-way street on those agreements. So take some time, look through them, and then remember to get them back to us. The other thing is the annual accreditation reporting, and this is due in January 15th. It will be due January 15th every year, so just put it on your calendar and set a reminder. But within that accreditation reporting, what we're looking for is your volunteer hours for the calendar year. So this will be in 2024, in January 2024, but we're looking for your cumulative 2023 numbers. So make sure you're tracking your volunteer hours. You're sitting here watching this video, so this is volunteer time, or your board meetings are volunteer time, and then any of your activities are volunteer time. So we want you to keep track of that. Also the number of volunteers. We want to know how many people do you have helping your program out, not just your board of directors, but maybe those who help at events or community trainings, any of that kind of thing. Work plans. You will see a work plan training coming out. Abby is working on that. And this is really, we want to see what you guys do throughout the year. We want to see that you're planning, that you're not just jumping into things with no plan, that you've really sat down, thought about it, looked at the budget within your work plan, looked at who's doing what, and really looking at it strategically and setting some measurable goals. We're going to need the next year's budget. So we're going to want to see your 2024 budget or the year for next year, your last year's profit and loss. We want to see what kind of money you guys spent. And then we're going to want your last 3 board meeting minutes. We really want these to be detailed. We want to know who's attending. We want to see who's talking at it, what's being discussed. So we really want those to be comprehensive. We're going to want your board and committee roster. And what we mean by board and committee roster is also their affiliation. So if your board president works for the local bank, we're going to want to know that and which bank it is. And then we're going to want their email and phone number. Just if in case we need to reach out to the entire board for some reason, we want that information. We're also going to want to see what committee they're on. We just want to know that your board is active. We're going to want the number of capital projects in your district. So this is really any kind of construction project. So if the big building on Main Street is repainting, we're going to want to know that. If the city is putting in some sewer work on Main Street in your district, we're going to want to know that. We just want the cumulative number of all those kind of construction projects. And then preservation ethics summary. So what this means is we want to know what you guys are doing to be involved in preservation and what kind of action steps the city is taking in you as a Main Street organization. Obviously, preservation is one of the biggest things about Main Street. We were born out of preservation movement, so we want to make sure that communities are continuing to work on their preservation ethic. And then the last thing we want is to know who from your organization attended our trainings. So if they listened to a webinar or a lunch and learn, or they attended one of our workshops, or they went to a community exchange, or if you guys go to the Preserving Historic Places Conference in Muncie, we're just going to want to see that. So that's really the things we want you guys to be tracking throughout the year. And there are some more trainings that will be offered to kind of help you guys get started on this. But I'm going to give you back to Abby.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what resources you now have at your disposal since you guys are an ODAN and you're a part of this network. Okay, so the first thing I want to walk through, which I'm going to have to switch screens here for a second, but is we are going to talk through the ODAN resource toolbox. So this is something that is going to continually be built on. Give me one second here there we go. Open up that screen. Maybe. Let's go here. There we go. All right. There we go. So you'll have the link to this in the checklist. But once you get onto the folder, it should look something like this. If you don't, from what I understand, you may have to create a Google Drive, I think, or Google account basically to be able to access this. Most people tend to have one, whether it's like in your personal email or maybe your organization's email is a Google email. But either way, it's pretty easy. It's free. You can create an account and then you should be able to get on. It's just on the web. So, and then this folder is shared with everyone. So you should be able to get on there. And it'll come up like this. So this kind of, it's broken out into some of the different areas that maybe your organization might need help with. So we've got, board recruitment and development. There's some marketing and outreach. There's another folder for just maybe some other topics that aren't covered in these, small business education, volunteer recruitment, et cetera. So again, this is something that as we see resources that could be helpful, we'll continue to put it into this folder. So if you go into one, there might be some general training resources. If there's any grants that might be applicable, if we have any recorded webinars, worksheets or interactive resources would go in there. And that's kind of how it's broken up. So I just wanted to kind of visually show you what to expect with this resource toolbox. And if you're looking through here and there's something that you're like, I'm not seeing something about this specific topic that you're interested in, let us know. I'm always willing to take that feedback and add in what you guys need. So if you go into the other folder, there's a lot of different things in here. There's some like advocacy stuff, building inventory, all those kinds of things. So I just wanted to show you that. So let me stop sharing my screen again and then share back the presentation. Give me 1 second. But yeah, so that's the ODAN resource toolbox. And then we also have Indiana Main Street toolkits on our website. Again, all of these things are linked in the checklist. So if you're like, where's that at? You'll just have to go there and I'll have it all listed out for you. But the toolkits are very helpful. We have like an absentee property owner one. I think we have our Economic Vitality 101 toolkit on there. So there's a few different kinds of topics that could be helpful again in an area that maybe you're like, this is something we need more help on. Those are really great. I'll have the ODAN work plan training, and that's part of that checklist that we hope that you will get done over the next, your kind of first few months, because obviously you submitted a work plan with your application. But that's something that, especially as you guys continue to grow as an organization, and maybe even if you want to eventually move up and become an Indiana accredited or nationally accredited, having a strong work plan is so important. And so starting now and kind of getting into the groove and getting all your board members on board on how to do that is really important. We also have a board member training that's on our website. That's kind of it's a good thing to do, especially if you're orienting new board members, for them to watch that, kind of get some background info on what is Indiana Main Street, what's Main Street America, what's the network, this network that we're a part of. It kind of gives an overview on all of those kinds of things. And then obviously your community liaison is a huge resource for you and is always willing and able to do a one-on-one training with your organization. So again, if you're like, well, we really, we have a specific situation that we really need help with, or maybe we need an in-person board training or a mission and vision, that's definitely something your community liaisons are willing to help with. And I'll share their contact info with you here in a moment. If you're not already connected, hopefully you're already connected with them since you worked with them on your application. But yeah, and then other Main Street organizations across the state. A big part of being a part of the Indiana Main Street program is that you're now connected to a network of amazing Main Street organizations across the state at every level. So even if, again, if you're wanting to grow your organization and grow its impact, talking to those Indiana accredited or nationally accredited communities, but also talking to other OCRA's downtown affiliate networks and learning from them. I know a lot of our Main Streets will plan visits and, time to go and check out another community and see what they're doing. So definitely recommend that. And as part of that checklist that I'll send you, also will give you some context of people in your region of other Main Street organizations. And then other resources, we have some in-person resources would be our community exchanges. These are day-long conferences held throughout the state that actually like a local Main Street organization will host it. And they're the ones who plan the sessions, and it's a very community led thing. And so you'll be able to come network with other Indiana Main Street programs, but also learn about maybe an area where that community excels in. And people really enjoy those, and they have a lot of impact. You also are welcome to come to the Main Street America Now conference. It's definitely, an investment, but we recommend it if it's something that, that your organization could do. That's really getting connected to the network at the national level, and starting to really get to learn from from Main Street America, but also all of the different Main Streets across the country. And then the Preserving Historic Places conference that Abby mentioned, it's in Muncie this year, but that's kind of our state conference now. We partner with Indiana Landmarks and DHPA on that, and there's going to be a Main Street track at that conference. So that's a little bit more affordable, probably a little bit closer to. You don't have to fly anywhere; you can drive. So definitely recommend that, and that has definitely a preservation focus. So again, Abby was mentioning this, it's important that we really focus on that preservation initiative. And if that's something you guys might struggle with or you want to grow in more, that's a great conference to attend. There are resources through Main Street America. If that's something you're interested in kind of tapping into, you can get a general membership. Since you guys aren't an Indiana accredited or nationally accredited, it's the general membership is for those who aren't at those accredited levels, but you still get access to some of their really great resources. So that's definitely something I'd recommend if again, you want to be connected to that larger network as well. Some resources that we can offer is grant programs. You've probably heard us say we're not a grant program. So, you don't become an ODAN or any other level just to get grants, but they do sometimes become available. What we recommend though is in the meantime, don't wait on us for a grant program that's open. Be looking out for other grants from other organizations, and start working on building your capacity and ability to manage and handle grant funds. It can be really difficult to do all the reporting, how to make sure that you're getting all the correct work done for that specific grant. And so we'd say practice on some other grants before you come in for one of ours. And that will, again, just continue to increase your ability to then apply for future funding. And then lastly, the Indiana Main Street Network Facebook group. Hopefully you're already a part of this. I think Abby sent the link in your welcome emails, but I have it in the checklist as well. That Facebook group is a great place to ask questions, share resources. Really just see what's going on. I post all of our events in there. So it's a great thing to be a part of. Okay, so let's go through just some opportunities and how you can make the most of your new designation, and really grow your impact as an ODAN organization. So first, just ensure that your board is engaged and understands the network and the program they are a part of. This is something that we've seen sometimes as a struggle, even at our Indiana accredited level, and sometimes nationally accredited level, is board members maybe not quite fully understanding what Indiana Main Street is, what Main Street America is, and again, that network. So kind of from the start, really make sure that your board is in tune with all of these resources that I just mentioned so that they can understand and really grasp the kind of network that you're part of and what's expected of you at this level and all of those kinds of things. Have a strong work plan. We already talked about that. Make sure that that's a priority from day one, that you have a process in place. And in the ODAN work plan training, I kind of go through maybe a way you can add this into your process of throughout the year of how to kind of make sure that, again, from the beginning, it's already a part of your plan so that all your board members are on board with it. Utilize the network to the fullest, both in Indiana and outside of Indiana. So I already mentioned, reach out to other Main Streets, get on our Facebook page, get connected to Main Street America if that's something you're interested in. But definitely the best part of this is networking with other communities. We say a lot in the Main Street world of like rip off and duplicate, but it's true because being able to have, some really great examples out there. You don't always have to create everything from scratch. There's probably someone who's done something similar. You might change it up, but it's a great thing to be a part of this network. So use it to the fullest. We mentioned your community liaison. please reach out to them to give trainings or help with areas you might be struggling in. That's what they're there for. They're there to support you, even if you just need, an ear to listen and maybe give some help with things. But our CLs are amazing, and they're so knowledgeable in so many different areas. So make sure you reach out to them, utilize them. They're here for you. Plan for growth now. Don't just assume it will happen. Again, even if it's, 5 years down the road, you're wanting to potentially either level up in our program, or just, maybe you have some really big dreams for your community. That's amazing, but make sure that you're thinking through, again, this year's work plan. What can we be doing baby steps wise to be working towards that goal? It's good to have long-term goals and kind of be thinking through that. So just don't assume just because it's like, okay, well, we're an ODAN, so now we're good. You actually have to think of some action steps to take from there. So think through that as a board, dream a little bit and then get specific with what can we be doing now. Build a strong fundraising base now and grow that community support. So hopefully you already have some people who know what you're doing. They want to support you. You have maybe one or two good, really strong fundraising events in mind, but really be thinking of that again with that long-term growth of, if we want to eventually maybe grow the organization, grow its impact, that also usually means growing the funding of it. And if you want to hire staff eventually or whatever that might be, think of those now. And again, think of what do we need to do to really start getting out into the community, make sure people know who we are, make sure we have a clear way for them to donate, for us to engage those donors. So again, that's a great training that maybe you could do with a CL. We also have some resources around that if you want to learn a little bit more about fundraising. Get yourself a seat at the table for major community decisions. We always say, remember, Main Streets are an economic development organization. Obviously, we know our OKRA's downtown affiliate network. You guys are at different capacity levels. You might be maybe you're really events focused and not all, maybe some of the other points might not be your strongest. But that being said, that doesn't mean that those events still bring people downtown, and you're still helping businesses be, supporting businesses and being hopefully an economic driver for downtown. So when there's, city council meetings, or that there's going to be a big streetscape plan being worked on for your community, whatever it might be, try to get yourself a seat at the table so people start to know what you are, what Main Street is, and really start building those relationships now from the beginning. And then with that, work on building supportive partnerships with other community organizations. So I know sometimes this can be tricky. If you have a chamber or an economic development organization in your community, they might say, well, we already have a chamber. We already have an economic development organization. What is Main Street? So it's a good opportunity for you to kind of explain what your organization does, because it is different, but also how you can partner and support each other. So again, starting this from the beginning, kind of helping have those relational building meetings is very helpful. Ask questions. Again, our team's available, but your CL is definitely always available. So feel free to ask as many questions as you need. And don't be afraid to fail. There might be part of you that feels like, oh, well, I don't, we'll never be like that community, or we'll never be like this, but you have to be willing to try things and sometimes even fail at things and say, okay, how do we do this different next time? And again, I always think at the beginning of an organization's life cycle, when you're kind of just getting started, is the best time to take those chances and see what works, see what doesn't work. This is why work planning and tracking the effectiveness of things is so important, because then you can say, well, that didn't work great. Okay, how do we change it and make it more impactful next time around? I mentioned your community liaison contact info. If for some reason you don't know who that is, this is kind of the map just to show you what CL covers which counties. And then if you click on this link in the presentation, and I'll make sure you have a copy of this, that will take you to the webpage where you can find their information and contact information. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this. I hope it was helpful. Our Indiana Main Street email is there at the bottom as well if you have any questions. But again, feel free to reach out to your CL. If there's something we didn't cover or you're confused on about the checklist, feel free to reach out. And we are here to help, especially as you guys are kind of getting settled and into the network. So thank you so much, everyone.